Okay, we are recording. We are recording to try and capture the madness between Lauren and myself trying to prepare for this interview, which Jeff and Knut have been privy to. Guys, welcome to the show. Great to see you.
Great to see you guys too.
Yeah, good to see you. And
don't touch the wires.
Okay.
Good to see you, Lauren.
Good to see you too.
Now, do you actually have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I actually started this question a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
When I said I don't have a question, I was like, oh wait,
that
I
was
do.
actually seconds ago.
Yes. So my question is, why did you wait? Did you? Is it you the one who asked them to come on?
No, actually. Ask Knut why we've jumped on this.
Okay, yeah. Why did you
create or arrange
this this podcast?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Jeff's, especially after having read his book, which is excellent, The Price of Tomorrow. So I tweeted something at him and I got a response and I got real happy about that. And we set up this call. I asked him if he wanted to a conversation one day and he said yes. So here we are.
More than that. So one day we're going to be playing guitar together. And
yeah. Yeah, you like my little song there as well.
I see the guitar behind Jeff. So yeah, are you gonna grow the hair out again, Knut, and go back to rock and roll days?
Yeah. I don't go to hair salons anymore. My wife cuts my hair, but she hasn't done it in a while, so I guess it'll grow back a bit longer before Miami, and I guess that's where we'll jam. Jeff, are you coming to Miami?
As long as I can get in and out of Canada without right now there's quarantine. I'd have to quarantine back for 14 days, and I don't know if I can handle that. So I'm on the standby list based on that.
All right. I'm trying to figure out if they're going to let me in or not too. Like all the Europeans were banned from the US, but I have a couple of friends now over there who can write me some form of proof that I'm going there for work. I'm combining business and pleasure.
Maybe that's our way around it, because we've been looking into this as well. And I was just hoping Mayor Suarez would just like, yeah, you know what, guys, for this week-long period, it's game on. But like as Jeff said, you don't know what's going to happen when you get back to your own country. What are they going to insist on?
Well, if we're going into lockdown, it's nothing really, because we don't really go anywhere, and also it's just like lockdown in the first place because I do homeschooling, and yeah.
So it's no big deal. It's we'll see.
You mean we want to beat it? You mean you're grounded anyway, Lauren? Always?
Well, I'm not
more
grounded.
Or less.
We just stopped going to school and we're doing it online now with this different school.
Even your dance class is going on Zoom now, isn't it?
Oh, it's so much more fun because like he tells us what to do, and sometimes he can't see what we're doing wrong. So
you end up dancing like Knut?
Like nobody's watching.
All right. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Would you guys sing at the 100K party?
I think we will.
Yeah, I think so.
Great. Okay.
We have a gig, Jeff.
Yeah.
I will try to finish up the lounge version of FU Money, my new hit song, my new hit single. I found an old synthesizer from around the year 2000, and there's like some jazzy backbeats and stuff there. So I'm working on a lounge version. Maybe Jeff can play guitar to that.
Maybe.
All right, so there you go. You just arranged a gig for the 100K party. We'll let John know that he needs to find some space in the evening's proceedings.
Are you coming, Lauren?
Chad. Yes, of course. I will never miss it. If I do, then I'm gonna die because I really want to go. I really want to go.
You know that it's next weekend, right?
Ha ha! Very funny.
It might be.
This is it's a 100K party. You never know when Bitcoin's going to touch 100K.
Do you know if he's at like 70 or 80 or 90?
What?
Uncle Chad.
Uncle Chad?
Oh, wait.
How old Uncle Chad is?
No, do you know how... Wait. I'm getting mixed up with my uncles. Uncle Chad, Uncle Patterson. Okay, yeah. Okay, so Uncle Chad.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much, how long until we're up to 100K?
Oh, we're halfway there. We're just over halfway there.
So 60K.
Around 6. We're around 60K at the moment. 55, 60. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you, Lauren.
Oh.
Is your Uncle Chad Giga Chad by any chance?
What Chad?
A Giga Chad.
Giga Chad. It means he's like how would you explain it? Like a mega boss.
I don't know.
That's what he's known as in the Bitcoin community because he just keeps buying shit tons of Bitcoin.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know.
Right. We're gonna do the interview.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Say goodnight.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Lauren.
See you again.
Bye.
Great to have you here, guys. And Jeff, I think you should be very honored. Knut has he's shilled your book ahead of his too.
I know, and he's got some good books there too. And
thank you.
I've never seen that.
I love that you do that with Lauren in the intro. It was such a cool experience, and I wish it was later than 12 here, so I could join you for a beer.
Yeah, it's not quite drinking time there. Although I did see you on the Toxic Happy Hour getting a little bit,
Yes,
a little. Knut, did you crash that one or not? Or is that the one episode you've not crashed?
It's like the one episode I haven't crashed, I think. That just happened. I started watching them and then they saw me in the chat and wanted me in a couple of times. So now I'm like the house band there or whatever.
Yeah,
The house band.
They're fun guys.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's a great show, and Preston even crashed one, I think, with Pierre Rochard, which is brilliant. It's good, just great to see what they're doing, and they're very proud, Jeff, of the fact that you were on there midday, chugging beers with them, having fun, and your mum turned up in the chat.
No kidding.
Yeah, they're excellent. Yeah.
Right, so where should we take this, guys? In what direction should we go? Knut, do you have anything at the forefront of your mind?
Yeah, well, I've been thinking of Jeff's book and similarities to my books, and I'd like to hear his thoughts on one of my thoughts, and that is a thesis that I lay out in Independence Reimagined, which goes something like the cheaper a type of money is to produce, all prices go up in comparison to that. If everything is denominated in euros or dollars, prices go up over time, since the cheapest thing to produce there is the money or the currency. And since Bitcoin is the literal opposite of that, which is like what over time will become the most costly thing to produce there is, I don't see a point where prices stop dropping. The prices of everything else, if you have a deflationary currency, is there a point in time where prices stop dropping, and I don't see that. I tweeted today about the Tesla thing. As of now, you can buy a Tesla for a Bitcoin, and Elon will not convert that Bitcoin into dollars, but he will keep it in Bitcoin. He tweeted that today, and I tweeted that today you can buy a Tesla for a Bitcoin, and one day someone will buy the entire company for 1 Bitcoin. And I got a lot of feedback from that. Like a lot of people were saying, like, well, Tesla holds thousands of Bitcoins, so that will never happen. But I still believe, since this thing is absolutely scarce, they will be lost over time, and there will come a point in time where, provided that the network still works, then. But that's like the underlying thesis that, for all the arguments, that there will be a point in time where 1 Bitcoin will buy you the entire Tesla company. Maybe not, probably not in this generation, or like even 5 generations ahead, but at some point in the future, maybe the year 3000 or something. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, Jeff. Like, is there a point where prices stop dropping if everything in the world is denominated in Bitcoin?
So I think it's a bridge too far to say you could buy Tesla for a Bitcoin, because enough people are going to lose that or lose their Bitcoins. But what I do 100% agree with the thesis. In fact, that was the whole point of my book, that technology is creating such deflationary pressure. And essentially, it's information. Most of our world is moving to information, and we can do things better through information. And products are becoming information, and that information wants to be free. And so most of the deflation is in front of us. A staggering amount of the deflation is in front of us. We've just started the deflationary pressure, and in response to the deflationary pressure, that's where most people got this, that kind of have it totally backwards. They're talking about the debt, they're talking about all of the monetary easing, and all of that is in response to try to grow against deflation. It's what came first. And so you have an economic system that requires inflation to work. Then you have a structural change of technology driving abundance or deflationary pressure into our lives, and pricing wanting to go down. And the economic response of the existing system has to try to print money, or first load with debt and lower interest rates. And when that doesn't create enough inflation to overcome the deflationary pressures, now print money to be able to do the same thing. So you have a massive structural change competing against each other in the world. And all literally, and most of the Bitcoin community knows this, but many other people don't, that just about every second order effect that you can speak to, inequality, the tensions around the world, geopolitical tensions and everything else, all of them are caused by that structural. Yeah. And so there is no way, period, that an inflationary policy can work against what's happening with technology today.
I totally agree.
Without concentrating all power in the hands of the state. And we know, a lot of people in the Bitcoin community know what that would, or you just do a thought experiment, what that would look like. If somebody controls the money unilaterally, and every single thing that you do, where you transact, what you do, then that unilateral power can also take away your access to it like that. So if you actually trust governments or anybody to actually print money and just decide, instead of the free market, decide who gets what, careful what you wish for, because it moves that way really fast. And the alternative universe for Bitcoin succeeding is a really dystopian future. But to now back to your point, the Bitcoin is a forcing function that that forces free market economics that we haven't seen. Like, we talk about capitalism, it doesn't look like capitalism today, it's crony capitalism, but forces that free market and everything else, and forces prices to constantly go down.
Yep.
In other words, and instead of prices going down because people say, okay, well, my income will go down and this will go down, and they get stuck because it's a structural change, and they can't paint the picture of what the future could look like because they're living in an existing world. So they're measuring everything else, and they get really, and the fear amps up, and they want to ignore it. That's what ends up happening, or push away from it. It can't be true. But what ends up happening is if you let something like Bitcoin or Bitcoin work, it fixes this problem, and the abundance from the gained has to be broadly distributed. If it's not broadly distributed, let's imagine a monopoly power saying, as labor comes out, prices aren't going to come down. I'm going to keep prices high. What do you think the other labor would do to beat that monopoly power? They would attack, like they would attack those prices, those high prices, and you'd constantly have falling prices with the natural forces would be most broadly distributed to society under a Bitcoin standard.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, and what's kind of played on my mind, Jeff, since reading your book last year and having conversations with you and other Bitcoiners about it, I was just reflecting on this today. It's so natural that, you know, any entrepreneur that starts a business is going to figure out the way to hire technology, to automate, to increase production and increase efficiency. Like an entrepreneur is there pretty much that's what they do. And over time they will drive themselves and the prices of their product pretty much so low through the use of technology that they will then go on and discover something else. And we call this serial entrepreneurs, right? And we think these guys are amazing, and you are one of these people. But this is, I think, like natural human instinct to do that. We, for whatever reason, we've had the wool pulled so far over our eyes to believe in inflation and to believe that prices should go up, that when your book just suddenly lands down and we're like, oh my God, that's just intuitive. That is absolutely 100% what should be going on.
And Dan, I think that was, and maybe in that, but I think that was one of those things that people were talking about, different silos of information, not connecting the dots. And I think what you said is with the book, and that's actually why I wrote it. I couldn't, that square peg in the round hole didn't work. There's no way it could work for me, and I wanted to explore that thesis deeper. And when I explored that thesis, remember, I learned a whole bunch of this on the way through exploring the thesis as well. I didn't realize that because I'm living in a system too. I didn't realize that before I did the research on the book, that there was $185 trillion of printing or debt creation over the last 20 years to stop that from happening. I didn't realize how big, like, this just say that again, how big a number that is, or that debt creation, only for every $4 you created, you only created $1 of growth. And that's looking backwards. So some of these things and it just went, oh wow, this is a structural change. And I could disagree with, I could not like it. I could decide, but I can't ignore it. And what's happening now is, once you pose that question, and that's kind of what the book's done, but others now, a whole bunch of really great minds are building on it and pulling that forward. Once you pose that question, the existing system deserves it. Like, you have to answer it. And if you can't answer it without waving your arms and saying, we'll just keep on printing our way out of it, and how does that make sense in a free market? So now it forces a question on the existing system. And once people are starting to understand what this existing system looks like, it demands a response. And that's why intellectually curious people are really diving in and wanting to learn more and dig deeper and once they find the answers, they're going, that's actually why they turn into Bitcoin maximalists. Right? Because they can't believe that what they see and what's so true, it's factual everywhere, that other people can't see it. And they want other people to see it.
Completely agree. And let's stick with this Bitcoin maximalist term, because there are still so many mainstream economists that get into like hissy fits and shit fights on Twitter with some Bitcoiners. Knut, I know you've seen this play out, and you're very much a maximalist yourself. What I'm sure you echo Jeff's sentiments. What I'm sure you as well want to add your own kind of take on that.
Yeah, I can totally relate to figuring things out whilst writing about them, because like when you try to put your thoughts on paper, you tend to follow the thought vector as far as it leads you. And if you really think this through, this is how I came up with everything divided by 21 million concept, because that's the inevitable conclusion. If this keeps on doing what it's doing, everything there is will be in Bitcoin, and in such a world we'll have a fully functional global free market instead of a handicapped one, which we have now. And that's a completely different society to what we see today, and none of us can imagine what it will look like, because it's so vastly different from what we have now.
Can I just build on that and then keep going, Knut? So one of the things I think that's really important, and I think you're right, it's everything divided by so call it 400 trillion divided by 21 million. But if you're saying that number, it's a reference point for what purchasing power looks like today. That's all it is. Because tomorrow that number is going to be a lot bigger.
Yeah, but the quote.
And then because what we really should be looking at is to the first point you made is, when you measure in Bitcoin, all prices are going to come down forever.
Yeah, but the to your point there, the quote from the article is actually not everything divided by 21 million, but everything there is and everything that ever will be divided by 21 million.
I guess what I'm getting at is in its semantics. It's so I have this conversation with my friends all the time. Lumber prices have increased 3 times this year. House prices are going crazy. Yeah. There's no universe where that actually makes sense.
No.
And so, but they believe housing always goes up and lumber prices always go up, and we got to get in more housing right now because of, and that's only true while you're changing the denominator. It's only true as you're driving all of this printing. So as a reference point for where we are right now, it's approximately 400 trillion divided by 21 million. Yeah. And that reference point will change tomorrow, and it'll change the next day, and it'll change that the next day. So if you could get a sense of what Bitcoin would look like in your life, 1 Bitcoin would look like, divide by 400 trillion right now. No. 2 years from now, you might need to divide it by 800 trillion.
Exactly. And this is also why I don't think that Bitcoin will ever become a unit of account, because its purchasing power is constantly going up, and I just don't see a point in the future where there's a point to using it as a unit of account in the sense of the word that we use now, because you can't.
And that's where I would disagree, because the existing currencies are going to fail. And so the 2 systems cannot work forever in parallel.
No, I agree to that. But I think the very definition of a unit of account will change as well, since it's such a vastly different thing when prices go down every day. You can't really the predictability of the current system is gone in a Bitcoin denominated work.
And by the way, this is actually an awesome part of the conversation because it's kind of exploring different territory. But in my belief, it's Bitcoin would get less volatile as we go forward. As if there weren't the same printing driving crazy pricing and everything else, you would see the natural forces. So we're talking about two different things. The deflationary event that is going to be forced on society at some point because of breaking the rules of capitalism and trying to print a way out of that. The only reason that deflation that people are talking about is a hard landing, whatever this looks like, and it's what governments are trying to avoid. Because if they let deflation happen today, every banking institution fails, every government institution fails, everything fails. So I understand the predicament they're in because they can't stop it.
No.
Right? There's nothing they could do, because if you let that happen, there's no way to pay back. Everything fails. Now let's keep going.
Yeah. I think we're talking about two different things, though, because what I'm envisioning is far ahead in the future. So it's not that it will that the dollar will still be the unit of account. I just think we need another version of unit, the concept of a unit of account. Since I believe that when the dollar is gone and when the euro is gone and when everything is in Bitcoin, then we will have a fully functional global free market, which will propel the purchasing power forward even faster than what's happening now. Especially if you take all the things that you mentioned in your book with every increasing power of AIs and such things, and like transportation costs go to zero, production costs go to zero, everything goes to zero. So there's it's hard for me to envision what such a world looks like, but I'm trying to think as far ahead as I can here, as to foresee a very distant future where everything is in Bitcoin and we've had it for a couple of years or even a century. Where do you any thoughts on that?
So that's actually kind of why I went. So the first part is, and why people get confused is, we're living in a different world that we're rapidly devaluing currency, and we know that at some point that ends. Governments are going to try to create their own central bank digital currencies that won't stop it. They might get together to try to create a Bancor type of unit to try to stop it. It won't happen fast enough to be able to, I believe, prevent Bitcoin from being a standard, everything pegged to Bitcoin. Could other currencies peg to Bitcoin and manage their own economies separately? Probably, but I think Bitcoin essentially is a forcing function that creates that. Now go through in some sort of event, we have to move from an inflationary world to a deflationary one. And if you measure your world in Bitcoin, you're already doing it.
Yeah.
It's already happening for you. If you don't measure your world in Bitcoin, you're not. So the more people onto Bitcoin and the more people that are realizing what is happening, and that's why they would never sell the Bitcoin right now, because we're still in, at some point, it's going to break from one system to another. And that's going to, and that same breaking is the hyperbolic rise in Bitcoin price.
Right.
Now, on the other side of that, the only reason your house is valued at what it is because of the printing, the $185 trillion of stimulus. It shouldn't be valued at that.
Of course.
Bitcoin, and all pricing is a mirage, and all that pricing is a mirage. And you guys know this well, stealing our time. Treadmill, expecting prices to rise, spending more of our time working to be able to get more jobs, higher paying jobs, to be able to keep the prices rising. And then the existing system, prices fall, jobs fall. And as that unit of account, which I think it is a unit of account, takes more purchasing power, but after the transition, it matches the normal rate of technology deflation. It matches.
I just don't see it as very useful for like the price of milk, for instance. Like, because of it being the opposite of fiat currency, like and absolutely scarce, it might be hard to use it as a unit of account even after it has taken over.
Well, I think that's where the layer 2 and Lightning Network and everything else will.
Of course, there will be systems for that as well. Right. But and to your point about time and stealing time, we were talking about inventions and entrepreneurship before, and like every tool that man ever created, we created in order to save time, for someone to save time somewhere, right? So everything is about time, and everything is about saving time. Productivity is about time, and so that's the only thing. And when you think of it that way, it's really mind-boggling how much time has been stolen from us via inflation. And I believe strongly that the rapid rise in Bitcoin's price is a reflection of how fool we've been since we went off the gold standard, basically.
If you go to that productivity that you said and how economists measure productivity, they're measuring the way they're measuring is for an old system. So I'll give you a really simple example of as everything gets transitioned into data, measure the productivity of your camera. You use like the photos we use today is a staggering amount of the photos that we used before. And the way we measured productivity before is the gain in efficiency of photos and pricing on digital film, things that measured into GDP. Now those things, photos, are completely free. And we use an abundance of, they're completely free. And you can take 1 billion photos and pick the best one, and they're all it's all free. Measure that productivity. So you've had massive, staggering productivity gains that aren't showing up in any economist models.
Yeah, just us sitting here having this conversation for free is it was unimaginable when I grew up, when we had two state-funded television channels, and that was it, and 3 radio channels, and that's all we had here. Like there was no free market in media at all. So it's really
it's called programming for a reason, right, Knut?
Exactly.
A nice quote from your book, I remember.
Yeah.
Jeff, I want to ask.
Good quote. That's Daniel's contribution.
Jeff, I want to ask you about policies going on in Canada at the moment, because I know you've been invited into the House of Commons a few times, and some politicians or policymakers have read your book. Do you have hope, or is there something else going on? What are you feeling?
I don't. I wish I did, but again, and this is where we have these labels for what we think government looks like, or what, and we think it's this big structure against us, right? And or central bankers and everything else, and it's just a whole bunch of individual people trying to do their best job. And what's happening is more of those individual people are starting to look deeper in what we're talking about. And those individual people are now getting elected, and they're starting to ask questions. And so that's what a kind of government looks like. So it's not this just big opaque structure with one person at the top saying all these rules. It is a little bit, but what I would say in talking to a lot of how far behind people are on what we're talking about, how early we are on Bitcoin, it's incomprehensible. Like when you think about when you talk to some of politicians about what's going on, but then spend a minute in their shoes, right? They're elected, they're from a whole bunch of different range of classes, jobs, everything else, and they're elected, and they hear the same experts come in central banks why we need inflation, and they have policy meetings on why this is, and how would they know to question that? And then through the door every day, I need you to save this industry. I need you to save this industry. This industry is going to fail. If we don't print this money, if you don't do this and hand out, like all these jobs go away. They're all living in a system that's feeding back the same knowledge into the system. So it's really hard to step back and say, okay, what do we do? And if you were Powell today, what would you do? And that's and really seriously, because I've done the mental math on every single vector that you could. What would you do? The entire world stops. It just keeps on deflating down. It just keeps on down because nothing's backing the system. You have $130 trillion of negative real interest bonds. Today, you see because they're buying the short term, their yield control on short term, but the long term rates are going up, and as the long term rates go, so to take that 130 trillion of negative real interest bonds, that is on your best day you're going to lose money, and you know it's going to be way worse than your best day. So that it becomes what people deem as the safe bet today is the most unsafe bet.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, as they question that, are starting to come out of that, and they're putting money into Bitcoin, and they're starting to realize that's why Elon put money into Bitcoin. That's why he's just that's why people are curious enough to ask this question and say, okay, what's backing this? And nothing's backing it except for a counterparty risk all the way down. So if you allow deflation to happen on that, and if you lose control of that, the whole thing falls down. So now if you're Powell or anybody else, any other central banker, what do? You keep on pretending, extending and pretending on this. And hopefully, my hope is you're also thinking something like Bitcoin is inevitable. We need to in the background build the on-ramps to it. That's my hope. But if you're, who knows? But that's my hope. The financial infrastructure that can drive the transition to it. That's my hope. But in the meantime, you can't let it. You can't really let it fail. So they're forced on a path. But that path isn't just they're forced on the existing path. Remember, 2008. Remember $250 billion and the marches on Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're talking 5 trillion and 9 trillion and everything else, and nobody. Oh yeah, and everybody's saying, oh yeah, that's good. Well, just so you know, in 5 years from now, you keep projecting this forward. It has to be. It's math. It has to be exponentially more printing to be able to combat what's happening with technology.
Yeah, politicians seem so detached from reality, though. They always talk about like such arbitrary things that have nothing to do with the real problems.
So Knut, I agree with you, but again, if you're them and you, because I've sat in these meetings,
yeah,
I've sat in and lots of them, and and what I conclude is this isn't bad people willfully ignorant.
I don't believe it is. No,
they're just so caught up in the existing. Why I use that Blockbuster example all the time, Blockbuster versus Netflix, and I used it in the book and everything else, is the way that a system protects itself, even when it's so logical that it's changing, is pretty set in stone. And so because people make a decisions to protect the status quo, and they don't know they're actually accelerating the demise of the status quo. This is a structural change, and there's nothing that it can be done to. There is no status quo. but that produces a whole bunch of fear response, everything else. And can you, and just be a politician and imagine what your region would look like if you didn't print.
Yeah.
And how do you guys feel about, where does the buck stop? Obviously, we all look to the politicians and we look to our leaders of countries, the central banks, head of the IMF or head of the European Central Bank, head of the Fed, whoever. Is that the top, or is there something then above that we have no idea about?
I think we're the top. I think that's so. And really, this is tied to information. Information today is free. Information and for a long time, printing press, the scientific method, everything off is when information is free or becomes free, less cost, information spreads rapidly. Then it's error corrected, and there's a whole bunch of misinformation in that, right? And so people have their take. And if you said the scale today, information is free, and not like printing press, it's traveling at light speed, and it's being error corrected. And so if my thesis is wrong, it will be error corrected and something else will be right. If Bitcoin's wrong, it'll be error corrected. But the rate of that happening right now is actually spreading information, power to people, to people driving onto Bitcoin. And once they see it, they can't unsee it. And so there is nothing that can be done to stop that. Before, if you had kind of said what was the top before, and your conspiracy theories and everything else, and I believe in some of, not conspiracy theories so much, but World Economic Forum and everything else, trying to put a picture of what the world looked like together so that everybody could fit in a story, right? And then there would be people at the top, right? And not trying to hurt people, so to speak, but trying to create a narrative and a story that worked for more people. And out of that narrative, many of those people at the top won an excess, especially in something like crony capitalism, that won an excess of trying to continue it on. What I would say is that whole thing is breaking down today because information is free and it's becoming error corrected, and the people, us, are in power now.
Yeah.
Nothing can change that. Because now the existing system, to be able to retain control, needs a story that's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Two questions, or like two things I want to explore here. The first one is to the Blockbuster analogy. Jeff, are you afraid of that point whenever it happens? Like, is that or will it be as beautiful as when Blockbuster disappeared because something better just came along? But when it comes to the world economy, and even the nation states, when they all fall like houses of cards, will the transition be smooth or violent in your opinion? I mean,
so I love that question, and it's why, if I said the number one reason I'm in Bitcoin, it has nothing to do with the price, nothing to do. The number one reason I'm in Bitcoin is it provides the best transmission mechanism to a world of abundance.
Yeah,
it will still be messy, and why we want why I try to do my best to not create us versus them. It's really easy to do because people throw stones at you and because they don't know, or they're trying to protect an existence or fear or something else, and you want to lash back. Why I don't typically lash back, I just kind of, okay, great, that's what you think, is because I'm trying to tone down the rhetoric so that more people can get engaged in Bitcoin. Because if I'm right, it's really important to them.
Yeah, and you can save them.
And they have to save themselves.
Yeah,
I can't say.
no, but you can help them save themselves.
All I can do is here's my voice. The more people on this, it matters for humanity a lot. I believe it's such a big deal besides the money you make. I think it's the only way, actually, this might sound a little radical. I actually think it's the only way that humanity survives. I think it's that important. Because the existing system will destroy itself and end up in geopolitical mess. And we have weapons of destruction today that create a very different world. And I don't think there's a way out from the existing system that allows the technology abundance that's coming anyways to be transitioned to be shared with the broadest set of society. So it's that important. And so, do I think it's going to be beautiful? No. Do I think it's going to be? Do I think it's going to be better for more people if more people get in? Yes.
Yeah, that's about where I am at too. My usual answer is yes, it might be violent, but it will be a lot less violent than if we didn't have Bitcoin, because then we'd have no alternative at all, and the collapse is coming anyway.
Well, so take an example right now in today with Tesla talking about selling cars in Bitcoin. That's global.
It's just US at the moment.
It's here first, but obviously they're building the on-ramps, and that's kind of network work. The on-ramps to all of this are getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
And that means somebody in China might be able to do it one day, or somewhere else. And as you do this, as you move this out, it takes away the power of the state. So most of the dictator, like if you look at dictators, they control the money.
Yeah.
That's what, and if they don't control the money, they lose their power. So Bitcoin robs power from that kind of geopolitical mess that's happening right now in the world.
Yeah, that's. I have a memory from my early Bitcoin writing days when I wrote articles, and I wrote one called "We're All Venezuelans," about how inflation is everywhere, and not only in Venezuela. It's just the rate that differentiates the different countries. And I got a response from a Venezuelan refugee who read the thing, and and that made the hairs on my arms stand for sure, because I had been a part of his journey out of Venezuela, and that was like I could see Bitcoin actually changing the world for people that needed it the most. So I think it's a very humane thing, and really important for those of us that are worse off. Anyway, to the second point of what I was thinking about, it's just that you said about that everything is information, and information is basically free and abundant, right? This is a part of the Bitcoin rabbit hole that I think is vastly unexplored, because we also now we also have information that is not free, but that is absolutely scarce and absolutely should be absolutely expensive at some point in time. And the phenomenon of like right now it's memorizing a seed phrase that makes knowing owning, but I think there are many other ways to think about this, because I think we've just begun to understand what happens when you blur out the line between knowing and owning. Because in Bitcoin, knowing and owning are the same thing. Like if you know your Bitcoin seed phrase, you own those Bitcoin. And I think there's so much to this that we haven't, that is missing. That this is missing from the discussion. Like how does that affect? How does it affect the mind? How does it affect the way we look at, the way we define owning something? And it makes me question what ownership truly is. I mean, do I really own this mouse? Do I really own this microphone? It could be taken away. It's much harder to take away my Bitcoins than to take my physical stuff. So I think this is maybe where we somewhere to go in this conversation.
Well, if you, I won't take it into the Bitcoin for a second, but if you just think about what companies are doing today, I'm around this every day. This is what I do. You're creating. You used to buy a record, and you used to be proud of your record collection or your CD collection and everything else, and you have to buy those things. And now we have an abundance in music, and it's free or almost free.
Yeah.
And we have limitless, and all the creators wanting to come onto that. It's taken the cost down for new creators that would have never been seen in the old system. That now their music is competing with other music, and we see more and more in abundance. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's free. Information is free, and it moves, and it moves at such a rate. Or I say it doesn't have to be free. In the old world, as things get digitized, it doesn't have to be. You could have monopolies consolidating that. But if they consolidate it and say we're going to charge X, then a different competitor changes that game and produces it and puts it together for less money. So there's still, you know this from my book, but I came to the conclusion in the book that human intelligence is really just error correction. And what we do as humans to be able to practice anything, the more practice we do at anything, we error correct information, and we can become better and better at it. And by doing that, because we can't see all information, because we don't have enough time, we get in the micro and we get into one thing, or we become an expert, and we don't see the transition around everything else. And entrepreneurs kind of can put patterns together from different things to be able to look at that. But ultimately, it's error correction on information. So more information, more error correction. And today, just look at the world we live in. There's a ton of useless information. But there is, and you don't. There's so much information that you don't know but it's being error corrected at a rate, and the best ideas win, and they keep on, and it takes us to a new level. Businesses that are available right now to create, like what a car company will look like. You don't buy it. People believe they buy a car because I used to buy a car, or still because I love the look of this car, or my 66 Mustang because I had a 66 Mustang, and the primary reason for you buy a car is for convenience, so you can have it anytime you want it, and that can be done with information, essentially. Self-driving and a whole bunch of density of cars, and so it's going to change the way car companies look completely, probably within 10 years. And so a car will look like CDs before it.
Yeah. And if you sorry, Jeff, just to stay on error correction, what we're seeing is Bitcoin, the protocol, the network, error correct itself slowly over time because it's highly incentivized to do so. And that's just going to add to the network effect. It's just crazy.
That's what's so exciting, Daniel, when you see this, like the layer 2 and what's happening, and the rate of growth here, and the entrepreneurs coming in and building businesses off of this, and it's moving so fast. It's hard to keep up with how fast this is moving.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. And what a time to be alive, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jeff, I'm not sure I've ever heard your rabbit hole story.
Which rabbit hole?
The Bitcoin rabbit hole. How did you find Bitcoin? What turned you away from the fiat Ponzi and just appear in that Bitcoin rabbit hole the first time? What was the first touch?
So early, I read the white paper very early. I wish I got in at that time. I was running a business, and some of my technology team was on it early. I'd been told multiple times, and I loved the idea behind it all the way up to but you're running a business and okay, we'll look at that. And then you're exploring different things. So I didn't really probably take it seriously until 2016, 2017. And even then I would probably dipped my toe into it more than anything. Rabbit hole came kind of in writing the book. Mm-hmm. And realizing, and in the book, I put one paragraph about it at the end of the book, because I wanted to find out the why first, why it was required, why something like that was required, and then the answer comes out of why something like that is required, rather than start the other way. So I started from, is there any other way to fix the existing system? And really tried to figure that out. And when I came to the conclusion there isn't, then I all the way down the rabbit hole.
No going back now. And were you shocked by the response of the Bitcoin community when your book hit the shelves?
It was wild. It was it has been wild. It's been I almost get emotional right now in saying this, that how awesome some of this community is, how first principle thinking, how some of the friends that I've met out of this, you guys and among them, really, really great people. So it's been such a crazy ride, especially that when I wrote the book, I thought it'd be the total opposite. I thought, I'm going to be the pariah. I am going to be, I'm going up against a system that has all this inertia, and I'm going, and there's a potential I lose everything because nobody wants me around. So it's been, it's one of the best things I've done in writing the book. I didn't do it for money or anything else, but it's been one of the best because you get to meet other really brilliant people out of it, and constantly search for better answers. So constantly error correct. For me too. Like, if you think about some of this community and what they're adding to, they might take a piece that I put in the book and then build on it, and it sounds way better than I put in the book. Or I might take, we don't know where our ideas come from, right? Sometimes they're in a consciousness over here and everything else, and we don't pay attention. And then all of a sudden we put something together with something else somebody said and have a new way of explaining it. So when I think about this community and what it does and keeps on kind of driving for curiosity, first principles, everything else, it's been remarkable. It's been just a wild ride.
I totally agree with everything you said there, but on a much smaller scale, of course. But I've had a similar experience with my book, and just talking to all these great minds. It's a hell of a ride.
And when you get you guys probably get this too, every day, but lots of emails and lots of, when you get people talking about you've changed their lives, they not just changed their lives monetary and everything else, but that now they understand the game board, and you've changed their lives in a whole bunch of different ways. That means a lot. It actually feels really great to be able to make that impact.
Yeah, every time I get that, it still blows my mind. From time to time, people say that to me, like, your book really changed my life, and it's just a great feeling. It's not why I wrote the book. I wrote the book more for myself, but of course I'm happy that it's doing well.
There is no money that could pay you more than that. What that means. No, right? That's actually the point. That's actually why it's so remarkable.
Yeah,
100%. And I pound the table on this for anybody listening that has that article or has that meme or has that thing to say or wants to start that podcast. You got to do it. because you never know who you're inspiring. You never know who you might inspire. You never know what life you might touch. There's when you put it in, when you frame it up in that way, instead of framing it up in money, and instead of, I think I put a tweet out the other day, imagine if we could make decisions without being judged and be able to fail without being ridiculed. Where would we be as a society, as a race?
I'm going to go make sure I like that tweet because
yeah, it's a good quote.
That's excellent.
But it's so true. And people DM me all the time. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. I'm like, do it. Like, come on, let's go. Don't hold back.
Yeah, people are in general are too afraid of failing because they don't see that there's a risk to doing nothing. Also, they think the big risk is taking the risk. But I view it as like with everything in life. One of the biggest risks is just keeping on doing what you're doing at the moment and not evolving into, like, not even trying. I think a lot of people become really miserable that way.
Building onto that, that's what entrepreneurs do. People believe entrepreneurs are giant risk takers. I completely disagree.
Yeah.
They're asymmetric bet takers. What they realize is, and by the way, why they don't typically, as an entrepreneur, you don't research forever. You have a thesis and you go. And you learn along the way. And if we go back to error correction, you're forced to error correct faster, or you fail. So you're off in the deep end, and if you don't do that, if you say one day I'll do that, you'll never do it. So it's a belief in yourself, and to be able to find the answers you need to know. Even when you start, you have no idea how you're going to figure them out. Whether you write a book, whether you have no idea how I'm going to, or where you start a company, it all looks the same. And it's that now I have to succeed. I have to finish this because I told people I was going to do this. That forces you to learn the answers faster.
There's a great quote from Benny Anderson of ABBA about creativity. And speaking about where ideas come from, and he said that, like, the song ideas, they're in the room already and they're floating around, and you just have to sit by the piano to catch them. And I can identify with that a lot. Like, you have to start writing or start playing or whatever creative thing you're doing. You just have to start doing it, and then the ideas will come. But you can't catch them if you don't have anything to catch them with.
Now I imagine a Satoshi Benny lookalike sitting at a keyboard, just waiting for the ideas to come as he's tapping out the white paper.
Yeah. Imagine coming up with the concept of Bitcoin, like how that mind worked.
How many epiphanies?
But actually, that's kind of the point when you think about this. It doesn't look. It seems like it, and we celebrate the one person.
Yeah.
Back to the path, like from the 70s to the path that actually created all of the right timing for this to come together for the one person to build on other people's work and then put it all together. It does. Because human beings want to celebrate the one person that had the idea and everything else, but it typically comes from a whole bunch of iteration and then a breakthrough on that iteration and everything.
Yeah.
So, well, I totally agree with you that it's an innovation. That how can you beat that innovation? But so it's a huge breakthrough, but it comes on the back of a whole bunch of other breakthroughs.
Yeah, he was standing on the shoulders of giants, definitely. And the key thing to remember there is that it's the idea that's important, not the person.
Right.
Like we don't know anything about Pythagoras' personality or what kind of a guy he was like. The idea matters.
Right.
And we should be talking more about ideas and less about people.
Yeah, and it actually goes back, but it goes back to it goes back to that error correction, and the best ideas win.
Yeah.
But as human beings, we want to celebrate the person that gave us the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, it comes natural to us to
We're
do that.
part of the story. We're all part of the story, and we can't.
Yeah.
We have a really hard time. I agree with you, but we have a really hard time taking the emotion out of it, because it's probably before communication looked like this.
Yeah.
We needed these simple stories with a person at the center to remember the story and pass it on to generations, or next generation. There had to be a story tied to a human to make it to be able to transfer that story to the next generation.
Yeah.
Satoshi's epiphany were the dots all aligning.
Right.
It wasn't the Big Bang.
Right.
It was all of those dots aligning, and that was the epiphany. That's
Yeah, and we don't know how he viewed this thing, and he was reluctant to tell. If you don't have the time, I don't have the. If you don't understand, I don't have the time to explain it to you. But I suspect that he thought of it more as a gimmicky thing and maybe a tool for privacy, but not as a potential world changer. We don't know that if he envisioned like a deflationary asset being sort of an airbag when the inevitable crash of every economical system in the world goes down. Like, we don't know what kind of vision he had.
If you look back to some of the early message boards and some of the, it's amazing how accurate some of the early message boards are to what it is. It's staggering.
Yeah, Hal Finney was spot on some. Yeah,
what it
spot
could be.
on so many different aspects of this.
right, guys. Where do you want to take this next?
You tell me.
Knut, what's on your mind?
I'm just enjoying listening to Jeff here. But
cut all of this, Daniel.
Yeah, about the current situation in the world and what happens post-COVID in a near-term future when everyone's vaccinated and we all have passports and QR codes burned into our foreheads and everything. Like, where are we there?
The future.
Yeah, will we start traveling again?
Yeah, one thing we could talk a little bit about is kind of inflation, deflation in the current system, because monetary easing is actually additive to deflationary pressures. Because you're
say that again, please.
Monetary easing is additive to deflationary pressure in the economy, because it's not for asset prices. But essentially what's happening is you're robbing the greater economy from progress, and you're taking that money and you're dislocating. So it's misallocated capital everywhere, which if you assume that has to be paid back at some point, interest rates have to go up, it's more deflationary. So right now you have a whole bunch of people talking about the massive inflation that's coming, and there will be more inflation coming in the asset prices and everything else. And if now you move into fiscal stimulus at some sort of crazy rate, sustained rate, yes, you can make inflation happen. But the point here is the minute you remove this, it's over. So people are talking about inflation with an expectation for forever printing. And if you remove the printing, good luck. Like if you said what would end up happening to, what would interest rates have to go up to for the free market to survive, and what would that do to the economy or anything else? So you're building more and more instability into the existing system. Mm-hmm. But I do not believe, and I might be one of the only ones, that you're going to see staggering runaway inflation as measured in if you said Germany, and there is right anytime soon. I think you're going to see an uptick in inflation in the second quarter as some of this, but remember, the deflationary pressures are more. They're happening all the time, and if you're running this experiment of printing more money, what do businesses have to do? The only way that it can succeed without constant handouts from the government is they have to remove labor faster. So those things are building more and more pressure on a disinflationary, deflationary environment, which means you can never, the inflationary policy, essentially, you can check in, but you can never leave Hotel California.
Yeah.
You're,
Okay, guys, break out the guitars. Let's go. I know you're dying. but on that point, Jeff.
But they're forced for yield curve control. They're forced for all of this stuff forever. It's never, now it could look, it'll look disjointed as like you're going to see in the next quarter, you're going to say inflation went way up, and then they're going to try to move out of the markets, and then they're going to have to come back in. So I'm not talking about something that's going to be a straight line, and then people are going to say you're wrong in this month, and then you're right in this month. But the overall framework, there's no way out of the existing system.
The pennies just dropped for me with UBI talking about this, because we all know any government temporary measure ends up being as steadfast as anything else. So UBI is going to be here to stay. So that is going to create a huge problem for businesses. That is going to force businesses to go to technology, because you are now competing against the government in the labor market. That's a race you cannot win. You just cannot compete with that. That's about as unfair as it gets for entrepreneurs. So that is going to drive entrepreneurs to go and find autonomy, to go and find AI, to go and find software. And that again adds to the deflationary pressure. So yes, I clearly see that now. Thank you.
And it's global. I talked to a huge real estate developer yesterday in YPO, and you know how many employees he has in the US? 2. He's everything in your book, the things that you talk about in your book, I'm doing. I have labor across, and they're working on Zoom and everything else. If I can hire the best person in the world, and for a tenth of the price, and how hard they work, and they're working from home anyways, why wouldn't I put them somewhere else? And so he has his labor dispersed around the world, working on this, and nobody knows. Nobody has any idea that they're not working from his office.
And this is I think as well how you run some of your businesses. I know you have the one in Thailand. A question for you: have you gone on the Bitcoin standard on any of your businesses yet? If it's if you cannot say, I understand. I'll just be interested to know where your thoughts are.
So I would say my personal parent company that makes investments in different things, yes. So in some of those individual companies, because they're not my own, I'm co-founder, or I'm in some of those not no. So and in one of those, shortly moving to that. So it depends on co-founders in the different companies and such.
You managed to orange pill them. Well done.
Exactly.
Anything to add on that deflationary pressure and stuff that we were talking about? Or?
Yeah, about the UBI, I've said a lot about the UBI and written a lot about the UBI and why it won't work, because I think it's so obvious that it can't work. But in my view, UBI is the thing that they needed in order to drive up inflation, right? In order for inflation to actually happen, instead of people just piling stuff, they need to hand out the cash to Honey Boo Boo's mom and so on, so the people start spending again. uh, the wealth.
Problem is they're buying Bitcoin with it. That's the
Not
best
all of
thing.
them.
Of course, not all of them. Yeah.
Too few of them, definitely.
But again, what if we go right back to the beginning of this conversation? It's a structural change, and so no matter what you do on this structural change, you're actually making the system more. You're driving more fragility in the system by trying to extend it. But to your point, what choice do they have?
Yeah.
So because Bitcoin today isn't ready to be a world reserve currency today and have all the on-ramps to payment mechanisms and everything else today. It will be, but that needs to emerge in time so that you can transition between. And that's kind of why more and more people on in a network effect and what's happening behind the system is that path that makes the transition easier. But in the meantime, if you remove stimulus, everything just keeps on crashing.
To that point, and about Bitcoin businesses and going over implementing a Bitcoin standard, people don't realize how easy it is to start a Bitcoin business and just accept Bitcoin as payment and have an entire business running completely outside of every other system. It's you can do it from wherever, and anyone could do it. Like sell stuff on the Lightning Network. I think that the Lightning Network, just as it functions today, is vastly underrated. It's the great technology that no one talks about. And when it started off, there was a big buzz about it in Bitcoin circles, but no one's talking about it anymore, and it works. For me, it's been flawless since the first day I used it, and like it's such a great way to innovate in Bitcoin and build better stuff. So
I'm even seeing a shift actually to the lower generations, like Lauren and her friends. They won't be talking about Bitcoin, they'll be talking about Lightning. You know, that could become part of the vocabulary. That could just be, oh yeah, I'll just send you a Lightning payment. I'll send me some Lightning, you know, or what we're talking about now, like the base layer and the protocol and whatever, and that's just like setting our minds on fire. That might just, in 4 years' time, that could just be, we're the old fuddy-duddies that's still going on about that. And the next group of guys are like, God damn it, what? you expect so, Jeff?
Yeah, I expect so.
Yeah, because like you need to do one transaction from your regular address to a Bitcoin address if you're just using a custodial wallet on your phone. Like, but when you're on that, when you're on Lightning, it's even easier to use than like base layer Bitcoin. So I don't get why it's not bigger than it is, like for school kids and so.
I think it's just it's early, but a lot of those times, and that's I think you're so close to it. I'm so close to it that we see some of the innovation and everything else. If you think about the business community, how close they are to it, and the things that you can transaction into. That's actually what we're talking about, a network effect. Every single additional node that comes on, person, business, everywhere, is making the network stronger, and that's why it's almost a certainty that it moves out. I don't think that network effect could stop now with the innovation.
No, there are so many networks effects. There's network effects upon network effects. So like everyone is incentivized to act in their own self-interest, and that helps the network, from miners to users to node owners and like businesses. Everyone is incentivized in the right way for this to take off.
Yeah, but for the average person right now, you see it. Yes, you can make it work. You could actually set up your own node. You could do this. The average person saying, "I'm going to install this on my phone and pay for everything." We're still a ways away from that. Yeah. We're going there. It's going to happen. but we're still a ways away. But it's kind of happening. I think it's happening faster than most people realize.
I have any of you know about the development of Light Night? You heard about this game like Fortnite on Lightning?
I have, yeah.
Because like Fortnite is a phenomenon. I'm just watching my kid playing, and he speaks English now. He didn't like a couple of months back, and it just happened out of the blue because of Fortnite, and and like a half a year ago, you could see kids all over the world doing this loser dance. Oh, maybe 2 years ago, but like every kid in the world was dancing the same dance because of this game. And these network effects, once we get the Lightning Network to kids, so kids can use this as like, instead of like pebbles and trading cards and stuff, that is going to be global, and that's going to be weird. Like Pokemon Go is the example I use in the book, which had like 50 million users in 2 weeks, compared to the TV that took like 50 years or something. So so all the underlying technology needed for kids to adopt Lightning is already there. So all they need to do is download an app.
Jack Everett is he's designing games on Thunder games for kids. They're fun little games for kids to play, and Bitcoin Bounce and Turbo 84, and you win some sats, and it's paid to you via Lightning. But the only way you can get that off the game is to download Wallet of Satoshi or Zebedee. You know, he does it really, really easily for them to understand. So if they've got a phone in the hand, they're going to find it at some stage. It's going to come across their radar without a doubt. One of their friends, me, parents, whoever, Lauren and Samuel, they want to pick my phone up and play this Turbo 84 and see if they can win some sats. And to them,
or tie that into where you're going, Daniel, just in the incentive structure into this, and maybe that's a small game today, and it doesn't break through like one of the other big games, but eventually you're going to tie this into some big game, and the incentive structure will feed back on it. It'll and if Fortnite doesn't, a different company that wants to beat Fortnite will.
Yep.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Yeah, I remember the gold rush in World of Warcraft like 10 years ago, and there were all offices in China, people just running around in this virtual world mining Warcraft gold. And then they released an expansion and they fucked up the entire economy. So, well, it wasn't a business anymore. And I thought about that, and I wrote an article about that, because that is akin to how state economies work. Because it's not an analogy for Bitcoin; it's an analogy for a central bank, because they have a central authority, setting the rules for everyone else. But it's so fascinating what a network effect can do, and especially among kids. And if there's a big game or something, like, it can happen so fast. And yeah, my hopes are up. Yeah.
Guys, I mean, we've just had a good hour and a half conversation, 3 Bitcoin maxis. It was pretty level-headed, wouldn't you say? We're not just
yeah, nothing too weird.
Yeah.
No quantum physics or like.
If only mainstream economists and professors would actually sit down and listen to a few of these podcasts, they might learn something.
They will, Princey. Your podcast, I'm sure, is being listened to by many of them.
Well, fingers crossed. And it's only the guests that pull in the listeners. But guys, it'd be remiss of me to ask you the orange pill question. So I'm going to go with Jeff. If you had one orange pill left to give, who would you give it to and why?
Oh, Powell.
Powell.
And you know why.
Yep. Knut?
Yeah, I'll say, I think I said this when I was on with Breedlove. Douglas Murray, on top of my list. British author, really clever guy.
And hopefully, if John Vallis is, he was a bit coy on the show the other day when I asked him about Jordan Peterson and having him booked. So we got fingers crossed there.
He
should be like, I can't imagine him not being a Bitcoin advocate with the way he thinks.
Yeah, but he's so early in his journey, though. He tweeted something about blockchain technology today, and I was fuck. He was so close.
So
we had him.
I'm on with Lex Fridman at the end of April. So he's obviously really interested, specifically Bitcoin and learning a lot.
That'll be fun. John Cleese, that's another one.
There's another one, yes.
Before he dies.
Big Python fan. Yeah. Jeff, did you say you're going on Lex's show?
Yeah.
Yeah? Nice. Very nice. And are you at the moment working with Rob on the next edition of the What Is Money show? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, we've done them all. I think they're going to come out early April. So yeah, it was great. Robert's awesome, and that was a really good conversation.
Excellent. Really looking forward to that. All right, Knut, do you have anything left to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I'd like to change my answer again, please.
You've only been on the show about 4 times already.
Yeah, but I always say at least 5 names when you ask this question because I'm never prepared for it. But if I haven't said it before, Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
You have said that was your first ever one.
Okay. I said that already. But who wouldn't want to see Bitcoin on South Park?
And I think I even challenged you to write the script for them and just email it, cold email them a script for South Park.
That's above my pay grade.
Jeff, is there anything you want to leave the listeners with? And please make sure you will come back to you, Knut, as well. Please make sure you let people know where to come and find you.
All right, I'm all good. Find me at Jeff Booth on Twitter, and it's great to be on again, Daniel. Thanks a lot, and Knut, thanks for organizing this.
Oh, I organized this.
You did. You did, Knut.
Yeah.
Thank you for being my PA. This is brilliant.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jeff, first and foremost, for taking the time to talk with me, and Daniel. And you'll find me on Twitter at Knut Svanholm, and you find my books on Amazon, where you can find Jeff's book as well and Daniel's book as well. And
there's 4 books between us.
Yeah, if you follow me on Twitter, there's some new videos in the works. So I'm hoping we can do some more of those. I really enjoy making those videos with Guy Swan and Yoni Appelberg. They
are very cool. They are excellent.
Favorite hobby right now.
And what you forgot to shill is your latest clothing line.
Yeah, but it's sold out. You can't get any of it.
Who'd have thought there'd have been a scarce commodity?
Yeah, only 210 of them. But there is actually one still left. It's a hoodie it has this same logo. For the people watching on YouTube, that's the everything divided by 21 million logo. But the one that you can still that's still for sale is this same thing, but the infinity sign has laser eyes. And that will be on sale until we hit 100K. So that's also like for that's a limited edition over time. So
where do people find it?
They can find them on the site is called Bitcoin Movement, or BTC MVMNT. It's like abbreviated. But
okay.
Yeah, so search for Bitcoin Movement. I think that should
I'll put it in the show notes
as a Google phrase. Yep.
Excellent. Great idea. All right, guys. Great to hang out, and I look forward to the next one.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Daniel. Bye.
See you.